This is continuing coverage of the case against Lori Vallow Daybell from the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today.
And closing arguments are underway as we're putting together this edition of Murder in the Morning, and we're going to dive into it. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the prosecution's closing arguments, because that's what's going on right now as we're putting this together. As of the second, Lori has not yet testified, but we will have that full audio for you as soon as she is done, as soon as we can get it up for you on the feed as well, uninterrupted. And you'll also have this uninterrupted as well. But this is going to be the version where we go through and, you know, poke the bear with the stick, I guess, so to speak, and see what happens.
I'm going to miss her. I'm going to miss her, the drinking game that I personally started with myself every time she says, "Is this correct? Is this correct? Is this correct?" I found myself, after listening to her, listening to myself talk to somebody, and I kept saying, "Well, is that correct?" I'm like, stop, do not do that. I'm one of those people, I'm a sponge. If I'm around somebody who has a Southern accent, I start having a twang. And so I'm a huge sponge in that regard. So listening to her for as many hours as we have, I started picking that up, and I needed to stop now.
You don't want to pick up any other traits of Daybell either. That wouldn't be.
No, I am not a murderer, and I never will be.
Yeah.
But just is that correct? Is that correct?
Is that correct?
Ugh.
Yeah. There's another trial. I mean, if everybody's like, "Oh, we're not going to get to see more Lori," there unfortunately is another trial.
Coming.
Yeah, it's another one. It's going to be coming up right after this. So it's a double feature, everybody.
There's a slight intermission by a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
You know, time for you to get your popcorn stores, you know, brought back up to snuff.
Or for her to be
maybe
deemed...
find a comfortable chair. If you found that the one that you're sitting in now is not as comfortable as you'd like, you can get a new chair. There will be time for shipping. Yeah.
Or for her to be deemed mentally incompetent, but I don't think that's going to happen.
That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen, Tony. They just want to keep putting her out there and spending the taxpayers' money and letting her just make a mockery out of the courts.
Starting to wonder if this is turning into like a money laundering scheme. Let's just put her out there. We got to do all this. It's going to cost millions of dollars. We know she's nuts. And we know how this is all going to end, but what's going on with all the funding? Let's see, is there weird shit going on here where it's like $80 for an aspirin or something?
Well, but wait a second. I mean, they're bringing lunch in every day for the jurors. I mean,
well, that's
not
normal.
To mention everybody who's working in the court system to actually have a trial going on. There's a lot of money being spent there. But they're bringing lunch in. Are we talking like Subway?
Yeah.
I mean, every day? Is this like... What is this?
They're not getting
what they're having for lunch.
They're not getting 5-star. It's probably like a variety. There's probably like Subway, Chick-fil-A, Applebee's, you know, those sort of things is my guess.
I'd be down for that because when I worked at the vet clinic, we got a pizza like once a month.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, these people are eating really good in the neighborhood. They are.
I know
It's so unfair. Do you know how many people bust their asses and get like a pizza party once a month?
Yeah. I always find that funny in companies where they do that with adults. It's like, this is like what you do with small children. And hey, you earned a pizza party, everybody. Like, go fuck yourself.
That was our reward during COVID is we're going to have pizza brought in for you guys. We had 6 people who were like tormented by clients. I had a person throw some shit at me out in the parking lot. But yeah, we'll get you a pizza.
Here's some pepperoni to make up for all the abuse.
Yeah, you're good. Don't worry about it. A raise? Nah. No. We got pizza.
Let's start listening to the prosecution here of Lori Vallow Daybell and hear them lay out reality on reality's terms, unlike what we'll hear from Lori shortly. So let's jump into all this.
July 18th of 2019, just 7 days after this defendant and her co-conspirator Alex Cox shot and killed Charles. This defendant texted her soon-to-be next husband, Chad Daybell, about Charles's life insurance policy. Her words tell us that she was involved in this killing. Her actions and her words of texting Chad Daybell tell us the motives behind this murder: Chad and money. The morning of that 18th of July, Lori Vallow texted Chad and said, quote, "I just got the letter from the insurance company saying that I am not the beneficiary. It's a spear through my heart. Who do you think he changed it to?" Later that day, after she spoke with the life insurance company, she sent Chad another text. Quote, "So I talked to the insurance company. He changed it in March. Probably it was Ned before we got rid of him." Lori Vallow's words 7 days after Charles was shot and killed tells us that we was her and Alex killing Charles. Why? For that money. But Lori Vallow's plan to kill Charles wasn't just known by her lover, Chad Daybell, and her accomplice and co-conspirator, Alex Cox. It was also known by her brother, Adam. Adam told us that he knew about Lori's beliefs. He knew what she had been saying about Charles's concerns for himself. And he told us that he knew about this plan for an intervention, to talk to a stakeholder. That morning of July 11th, when Charles arrived at Lori's house, as she knew he would, he texted Adam and said, "Al is here." Adam texted back, "They are planning something." He knew. And 3 days later, on Saturday, when Adam finally learned, when his friend Googled Charles, that he had been shot and killed by Alex, Adam told us he went back and talked to his mother, and he confronted her about this. And he told his mother, Lori and Alex conspired to kill Charles. He knew, and he was right. Lori's ex-friend, Christina Atwood, she told you about that very uncomfortable dinner on June 9th, a month before the murder, where Alex Cox was talking about just wanting to kill Charles. He said this multiple times, and this defendant didn't care. In fact, she talked about how she had been drugging Charles. Christina told you she was so disturbed by this, she actually went and saw Lori the next day, June 10th, and told her, if something happens to Charles, I'm going to have to go to the police. Christina knew. She was right. And Nancy Jo Hancock, now she had just met Charles a few days before, and they had talked and texted and had been on the phone for hours, you heard. Charles had told her all about Lori, the things she was saying, the things she was doing. She told you that she knew that Charles was concerned for his own safety. And she understood the motive. She told Charles the night before, you probably should just tell Lori that you've changed the beneficiary, that she's no longer going to get that money. Nancy Jo knew, and she was right. Lori Vallow wanted the $1 million, and she wanted Chad Daybell. And she and Alex used that twisted religious beliefs they had so that they could kill the evil, possessed Charles and be like Nephi. The evidence that has been presented in this trial will prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that this defendant is guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. So I want to split up my closing into 3 sections. First, I'm going to talk to you about the timeline and the motives in this case, and the evidence that supports those. Second, I want to talk to you about the jury instructions and the evidence that's been presented to you in court. I'll remind you that anything the defendant said in her opening was not presented at trial through a witness or through an exhibit, and it is not evidence. Using the evidence that has been presented and admitted at trial, the state will show you how, again, the defendant is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of this crime. And finally, I'm going to talk to you about those justification defenses, the excuses and the reasons why the defendant would like you to believe that they had a valid basis for shooting and killing Charles on July 11th. And we'll talk about how, in fact, there is no justification for what happened. What happened that morning was a first-degree premeditated execution of Charles Vallow. So let's go through the evidence. The timeline really starts, and we know it goes back much further than this, but the big change occurs on June 29th or 30th, when you learned that Charles Vallow learned about these KK Walker emails. He learned about that affair with Chad. Now he knows Lori is cheating on him. We know that he contacted Chad Daybell about it. He contacted Chad's wife about this. He told Adam about it, and he told the defendant about it. So everyone knew that Charles now knew this. July 9th is now the first time that Charles is going to be coming back to Arizona. We know from the time he learned about that affair, he hadn't been back until this planned visit to see his son, JJ. We know at 1:13 p.m., Charles texts Adam and books him a flight for the next day. At 1:21, we know that Adam is contacting Alex. And they talk for 20 minutes. And Alex lets Adam know, sure, you can stay with me. Of course, Alex doesn't know the plan yet, the mission. Lori then starts talking to Chad Daybell. We know that she knows about this intervention. She knows about Adam coming, and we know this because, again, of her text messages. We see Lori then starting to round up the troops. Why does she do this? Because she wants to ensure that on July 11th, it is Charles and only Charles coming to the house and not the intervention of Adam or Brandon or Zach coming over to help him. So she has Melanie. Tells her she can't go to this wedding. She has to stay here. It's coming to a head. This week will change everything. Call me. Then we have July 9th, the text messages with Alex. She tells him, so the plot thickens, call me when you can. He doesn't call her initially. So she sends him another message, this one really letting him know. She specifically tells him, I'm going to need you to stay close to me the next couple days. Mel, too, she can't go to Utah. She's got a job. They are planning some kind of intervention, but want Mel out of the way, so I'm left alone. She talks, I need to come get the stuff at your house tomorrow and secure it. Lots to do. Thank you for standing by me. It's all coming to a head this week. I will be like Nephi, I am told, and so will you. And then what happens? This gets Alex to call, and they talk for almost an hour. An hour planning how they're going to stop the intervention, how they're going to be like Nephi. As we get to the 10th of July, and we continue through this timeline, we see Lori again talking religiously with Chad. 149 minutes that morning. She's also texting Melanie Boudreau, Melanie B, telling her that it's important for the mission, for Melanie to help her by keeping Brandon distracted. And we saw those messages where Melanie says she'll pretend to be sick. We know that on the 10th, Adam arrives in Phoenix. And now we have Summer helping the defendant, letting her know what is going on with Adam and Zach. Everyone is covered to ensure that Charles will be alone on the 11th. We have the continuing talks with Chad, her soon-to-be husband. As we get into the 10th in the afternoon, we know that per their agreement, Adam calls his brother Alex. Hey, I'm here. Brother doesn't answer. He sends him a text. I'm here. No response. Why? Because the night before, his sister Lori told him, we have a mission. We must be like Nephi. Charles is coming into town. You must stay at my house the night of the 10th so you can be here the morning of the 11th. We also know that Summer gave Lori an out. Hey, you can stay at my house. No one will know where you are. We're going to be out of town. You can hang out here. Lori doesn't take her up on that. She has a mission to do. As the night grows on the 10th, Adam continues to try to reach his brother Alex. Again, no response. And by 45 or so minutes after that last text by Adam, we know Alex is already at Lori's house. He's there with his gun and a garbage bag of some underwear. Why? That gun is important. A loaded weapon, 2 extra magazines of ammunition with him. He is ready for his mission. And again, Summer is updating her, telling Lori that Zach and Adam are still at her house. They're going to go stay at Mimi's. And she even tells him that Adam is still waiting for Alex to get back to him. Still.
Ruh-roh.
Uh-oh. What's going on up here?
It's Nephi.
Nephi is getting in the way. Well, let's see.
About all of these things. And what does he talk about in that morning? As you have with a gun and he doesn't beat him with it, take his head off with it, knock him unconscious with it. Instead, all we see on this bat is 0 damage.
Oops.
Well,
that looks like an ugly error.
What is going on with the trial of Karen Reed?
Fight that's left a large.
That'd be Lori.
Or Lori Daybell. Sorry.
Else?
It's all good.
Just 2 partial.
We got that starting soon.
When you think about what is there and what isn't there, does the evidence of this bat fit in at all? It doesn't. We look at Charles's watch. No damage to it, no scratches to it, no dings to it as he's grappling on the floor like Lori wants you to believe. We know that at some
was killed in.
We know that
Okay.
at some point Charles is standing and shot, and we know that final shot he's on the ground. We know he fell to his knees at some point. And when you look at that physical evidence and the lack of damage or anything on that bat, again, what makes sense is that Charles fell to his knees after that first shot. We know that there is 12 minutes where the defendant and her brother are still together there, so that Alex can get this 1-inch cut to the back of his head that's barely bleeding, that he uses a paper towel to dab at and rub. the shoes that the defendant ran out of on her way out. You have the exhibit. You can see black straps across her toes as she enters and exits the Walgreens. And then you see that she's wearing the flip-flops when she comes back to the scene. What do we know? That the police did not search Charles's rental car. Credibility. You are given a credibility instruction and you use it for everyone, including the defendant. You're told that you really evaluate people the same way. You're looking for any inconsistencies in their stories, any reasons why they may have a motive or bias to lie, any prejudice they may have, and then you look at everything in light of reason, common sense, and experience. When you think of the testimony of the people who've come here and talked to you, Christina Atwood, Serena Sharp, Nancy Jo Hancock, Adam Cox, Dr. Bumgardner, the detectives, Robin Smith Scott, Mark Zari, what benefit do these people have in being untruthful to you? They have body cameras, they have prior documents, and they have memories of what this defendant said. But the credibility of Lori Vallow is something you do need to consider. And you start with her demeanor that day, where she wasn't worried about anything when she arrived. Her brother has allegedly been hit in the head with a bat by her husband, who plays semi-pro ball. She doesn't even worry about him. She knows he's not hurt. He's fine. And why does she know that? Because that was staged. When she's there and we see her on body cam arriving, just nonchalant and calm. And I know the defendant wanted to make sure that it was clear that everyone else was calm, but no one else had just allegedly seen their husband get shot and killed by their brother. When you were looking at the reasonableness of her testimony, you have to consider it in the light of reason, common sense, and experience. And the way that she was acting and reacting that day, as well as her own statements, do not fit the evidence, do not fit the physical evidence, and you will see her credibility throughout this whole case has been questionable. Her credibility with Social Security. What did we learn? That on July 11th, she tells Detective Ynclan that she and Charles are separated. Exhibit 187. We are not living together. Charles rented her house. We're separated. But on August 12th, when she needs to make sure she gets some money, she tells Social Security, when they ask, are you living together at the time of death? Yes. You also learned that she was not truthful with Social Security when she got remarried. She did not tell them about that either. So we know she's been untruthful to Social Security twice. Why is that relevant? Because you're judging the credibility of Lori Vallow throughout all of this. Life insurance. We know that she said Charles was accidentally shot. We know that was not true. She wanted to make things seem like she had nothing to do with the murder. But we know that Alex Cox intentionally shot Charles. Whether or not she wants to claim it's self-defense or not, there was nothing accidental about shooting him twice. Then that second call to Banner Life Insurance, where she tells Robin Smith Scott a few different things to garner sympathy, and she asked her if she could do anything about the change in beneficiary.
I really can't give too much information, but I can tell you that the beneficiary was changed in March of this year. Okay. Okay, I'm trying to figure out what he was doing since we have 5 kids and we've been married for 15 years. Oh, I'm sorry.
So Lori tells this woman, we have 5 kids, which if you want to count them all and admit that 3 of them are adults, then okay. Really, they have 1 kid in common. Tylee, you learned, was actually getting Social Security survivor benefits from her dad's death starting in 2018. Lori's son, Colby, isn't living with them. Charles' son's never lived with them. Why does she say these things? She can't help it. She's just wants to just make herself seem better than she is. What about the credibility of her interview, even during the police interview? We talked about a few things, but one of the things she told the detective.
That I didn't file anything or whatever. And then he filed something against me and said, I'm only going to get supervised visits because I'm crazy and blah, 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 you know, the story. And so I just didn't talk to him for like 30 days and let him take care of him and let him see what I've been doing.
So again, she can't even be honest and say 2 months. It's got to be like 30 days. I was kind enough to just leave my husband with my son for 30 days. What we know is that Lori Vallow was gone a total of 78 days, 58 while she's flying to Hawaii, going to Idaho and back with Chad. And who's taking care of JJ? Charles. And Kay is coming here regularly to help take care of JJ.
I feel like they didn't put the A-team in here to go
And then
against Lori.
eventually on March 28th,
Yeah.
that's when Charles finally decides he hasn't been able to find Lori. He doesn't
They
know where
didn't
she
have
is.
to.
He's going to move to Houston to be closer so his sister
Yeah, he
can
didn't
help him
have
more
to.
easily. And this is when Lori finally
She's not
shows
that
back up.
compelling. She needs
So again,
she needs more
even the
variations in her
simplest thing, just
voice.
trying to
She
be
needs a
honest
little
about how
lesson
long
in
she's been gone. She has
theatrics.
to minimize it and make
Well,
herself
Very
again, we've
monotone.
talked about that with attorneys. I mean, that's why Alan Jackson is so interesting to listen to. He's charismatic. He might be full of
She's-
shit at times, but love listening to him.
She's just very high tone and solid, and just, I mean, she knows her stuff, but
when she was questioning
it's
Detective
not.
Ynclan,
It's annoying. It's boring.
she was asking her
Yeah.
if it was
She's
hot
book
in
smart.
July,
Yes.
She's getting
if
all the
she
right
would
points
need
out. It's
shoes
just
to
she's
go
not,
take her son
you wouldn't want to sit
school.
through 2
But
hours
of
of that.
course, what we
No.
know is that we
Need some
saw
caffeine.
her
Because eventually, if that's how you're
Those
coming
shoes
across,
on.
the jury is not going to be paying attention as much as if you were boisterous or had the charisma to keep you engaged. It's just like when you're a kid and you go to church and like the fill-in pastor is there and it's like, oh God, I know why you don't have your own congregation.
that body cam.
Because you're boring as shit. And then when the one retires, it's like, guess who's coming to be the main one? That boring ass guy? Yes, that boring ass guy.
Feel like you know this story all too well.
Had a great charismatic guy I really liked, and then they got in like,
How long have you lived
it's
here?
like Mr. Rogers'
Yeah, okay.
That's why the neighbors don't know us.
Gotcha.
less exciting brother.
Are you working?
Yep.
So here she is, 47 minutes after leaving the house.
I'm betting though the jury
Documents
already
finally
knows
with
what
the
they're gonna do.
detective.
Again, we're gonna need
The
to
fact
put
that
bets
her
on it,
husband
but
is
I
dead
think we're
inside
gonna
the
have a
house.
verdict before this
Her
even
brother is
airs.
sitting on the curb, allegedly with this very serious injury from a baseball bat.
I don't know.
When you look at that credibility of
If I just want to get the hell
defendants,
out of there at this
you
point.
have to look at
Yeah.
everything together and what fits, again, with the physical evidence and what doesn't. Finally, let's talk about the justification defenses. What we know is that Lori Vallow thought she was like Nephi, that she was justified in killing Charles. That her brother, who was supposed to be like her, was also justified in killing Charles. But Lori Vallow is not justified under Arizona law, nor is Alex. So let's go through the different justification defenses. First thing that you have to consider.
My girlfriend just texted me and said, your next book needs to be called The Killer Cookbook. You need to put Lori's green chicken chili enchiladas in it.
Well, yeah, can-
I like that idea. I think I might actually do that.
That's you being a chef. This is the perfect thing for you to do.
I like that idea.
Yeah, I do too.
Against another in
I would buy
response
that
to
cookbook.
verbal provocation
Yeah.
alone.
I think a lot of
Charles
people
yelling
would.
and screaming
I think
at
maybe
her
I'll
to
work
give
on
his
that.
phone back does not justify you shooting him.
Wonder if Ted Bundy liked to cook.
A person is not justified in using or
The worst is going to be the
physical
Dahmer
force
chapter.
if the
Well, I was gonna
defendant
say there could be the Ed
or
Gein
perpetrator
section.
the others.
But
use or
I'd
attempted
want to
use
know like
of
what they
unlawful
actually
physical
ate.
force.
Like what did they like? I want to make it
So we know
authentic as
here
possible.
Lori
Like I would
Vallow
actually write Lori
Charles
and ask
by
for the
taking
recipe.
his phone and refusing to give it
I
back.
bet she'd give it to you, too.
Refusing to give it back. So again, when we look at every one of these defenses, you'll see not only do they not apply, but
It's like, Laura, you
none
don't
of
put
them
borax in
is
chicken
the
chili
defendant entitled to.
enchiladas.
Well, she might. No, Corey
This is
Richins
not
might, but
self-defense.
Lori Vallow wouldn't.
I don't
In
think
self-defense,
Drano is an
you're told
ingredient.
That a person, a reasonable person,
Well, it
use
can
deadly
be if you're
physical
creative
force
enough.
if they believed that deadly
And
physical
evil.
force was immediately necessary to protect against another's use or apparent attempted or threatened use of unlawful deadly physical force, and the person used or threatened no more deadly physical force than would have appeared necessary to a reasonable person in this situation. We know that Lori Vallow used Charles's phone to get him to come back inside, and she used his phone to keep him inside and give her brother time to come out and shoot and kill Charles. We know from the physical scene itself that Charles did not use a bat. We know from the physical evidence of Alex's 1-inch cut to his head and the lack of blood or concussion, the lack of damage to the mirrors, the walls, the location of the bat in relation to Charles, they all tell us that Charles did not use a bat. We know that Charles was a semi-professional baseball player. This would not have ended that way if he had had a bat. But even if you somehow think that he did have a bat and he was swinging it at Alex, the defendant, whoever, he still was not justified in shooting him when he was on the ground. It has to be immediately necessary to protect against another's use. When Charles is on the ground and he is shot that second time, there is no threat to anyone.
I find it interesting that they're entertaining the
So
idea that he actually even
is not
had the bat.
self-defense.
Yeah. I thought it was mainly a prop.
Counsel,
Yeah.
I need to give my court reporter a break unless you think you'll be done in the next 5 minutes. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, thank
When we
God.
look at the physical evidence, again, we know that Charles was on the ground, shot, and so this is not self-defense. And we know from the physical evidence at the scene, projectile into the floorboard, this is not self-defense. Third party. You're told that a person is justified in using or threatening deadly physical force in defense of a third person, I presume here Lori Vallow. If a reasonable person in this situation would have believed that deadly physical force was necessary to protect against another's use, again, of unlawful deadly physical force against a third person, and they used only what was necessary for a reasonable person under the situation. What do we know? Lori Vallow told Detective Ynclan that she wasn't even in the room when she heard the shot, that she had gone around into the kitchen. Who's he protecting at that point? What third person that's no longer there is he protecting? You can't protect against a future, what might happen, or what already occurred. It has to be now. And Lori Vallow herself put herself outside the room when her brother shot Charles. So there is no third-party defense. But again, the same thing applies. Even if you thought so, that second shot removes any possibility of being justified. Crime prevention. This is the exact same thing, only in a slightly different stated way. But like self-defense, it allows a person to use deadly physical force against another to the extent a reasonable person would have believed that deadly physical force was immediately necessary to prevent Charles from committing aggravated assault against Lori Vallow. We know she's not in the room. Even if he had that bat.
I think she's got a chance.
And then she left the room, that crime is
Really?
over.
Yeah.
And again, even if you believe he had the bat, you cannot shoot him while
I think
he's
less would
on
have been
the
more
ground.
and to the point.
That is not what crime prevention permits you to execute a person. Finally,
Considering she brought
There's
nothing to
mere
the table,
evidence.
she didn't bring any arguments.
you're told that guilt cannot cannot be established by a defendant's mere presence at the crime scene, mere association with another person at the crime scene, or mere knowledge that a crime is being committed. Lori Vallow wasn't just present at this crime scene. She brought her brother to the crime scene. She ensured that he brought a gun with him. She ensured that JJ was outside, and she ensured that Charles stayed inside. She was not merely present. She was a person who was actively participating in this crime. Ladies and gentlemen, we have talked about the evidence in this case. Evidence that was presented to you through witnesses who took the stand and exhibits that were admitted for you to review. Remember the evidence of Lori Vallow's motive. Charles's life insurance, Chad Daybell. Remember Lori Vallow's own words of wanting to get rid of Charles, of drugging him, her acceptance of her brother's statements that he wanted to kill Charles, how she used Melanie and Summer to plan her mission and ensure that Charles didn't have help from Brandon or Zach or Adam. Her words to Alex about it all coming to a head, that he had to stay near her and they would be like Nephi, justified in killing Charles.
Do you think she wrote it or
And finally, her
ChatGPT?
words to Chad Daybell on July 18th,
Feels a little chat GPT
confessing
to
the
me.
killing when she said Charles had changed the life insurance.
Yeah, where she didn't
before
get out the
he got rid
redundancy.
of him. Look at her actions and demeanor, having her brother come over on the 10th to her house with a loaded .45 caliber handgun, creating the one and only reason why Charles stayed inside the house, why he didn't just take JJ to school. The 12 minutes that Charles is at the house before Lori leaves in the car, the 47 minutes after that before they call 911, her demeanor when she comes back, not caring that anyone has been hurt, her demeanor on the body-worn camera, during her interview, what you heard about during the drive. Think about her credibility, how she cried for you in her opening statement. You certainly didn't see her cry on that body camera footage. You didn't hear about her crying as she was being driven to the Family Advocacy Center, and you did not see her cry in her interview. Finally, think about the physical evidence that proves that Lori and Alex staged this scene, that Charles was never in possession of that bat when he was shot by Alex, or either of the shots.
It's like covering every possible
That
angle
instead
of
he
this.
was executed
Yeah.
that day for this defendant's benefit. The physical evidence disproves beyond a reasonable doubt that Lori Vallow and Alex Cox were justified under the law in killing Charles. The jury instructions tell you to use reason, common sense, and experience. Charles Vallow is dead today because this defendant and her brother Alex Cox conspired to kill him. They planned it out, and they had their weapons, and they orchestrated a way to ensure that Charles was back in the house where he was shot and killed for money and Chad Daybell. The evidence proves to you that Lori Vallow Daybell is guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and the state asks you to hold her accountable and find her guilty. Thank you.
Oofta.
Well, we're going to take our 15-minute afternoon recess. I'll remind the jurors to remember the admonition. We'll resume in
Here's the thing.
I feel like I need a break too after that.
Most of that was really, it wasn't super heavy on Lori. It was Alex did this, Alex did that.
Lori's the one on trial here, not Alex.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like you really needed to sink that home that Lori is the one that would have done this. And I don't know. It's so redundant and just blah.
I wonder if they
hope she
felt that
sunk
this
it.
is just a slam dunk.
I don't think you should never consider a case a slam dunk. When you do that, this is what you get. I don't know. I could be completely wrong, and I'm fine with that. But curious.
I mean, by the time this airs, we could have a verdict.
In theory, I wonder if this will take him a little bit of time. I don't know.
Hard to say.
I don't think they connected it very well. I think there's other ways it could have been presented. And I don't know that it connected very well. I don't know. That's just me. I mean, it seems like it's a slam dunk because we know that MK, so we know she had something to do with it. But it's conspiracy. It's not she pulled the trigger. It's did she order this? Was she part of this? Did she know it was going to be happening? And yeah, I mean, there's code language.
Yeah.
That there's never the flat out go, he's going to get killed today. I mean, she's a, maniacal narcissist. So I'm not surprised she didn't have any sort of emotion about any of this happening, even if she didn't know it was going to happen. Honestly, I mean, if she showed up and Alex had done this, I don't know that she'd act any differently.
Well, and that's the thing, too. When that jury gets in that room, they're going to have a checklist of things that had to have been proven.
Mm-hmm.
We have a gut feeling. We kind of know, yeah, Lori was behind this. But you have to go into it with what was presented within those four walls.
Yeah, or was it a birthday present? Was it like a, hey, surprise, sis? Not like, hey, I'm going to watch the kids this weekend so you can go on a date with your husband. No, it's like, hey, sis, I'm going to kill your husband
Mm-hmm.
so you can go out with the crazy guy that's starting a cult. Doesn't that sound good, sis?
Yeah.
I still wonder if the two of them had something going on.
Ew.
I totally could see it. It's a lot of people who wondered that. They were just too close. And there's accounts of them being at like gatherings and shit and simulating sex with one another.
Ew. Ew.
Yeah. Like being funny, like over the top, like, oh yeah. And they're like, but who does that with their sister?
No, that's not acceptable behavior. I mean, that's frowned upon in any community.
Yeah. If I was a betting man, I would put money on that happened. Just pure speculation, I know, but that would not surprise me. So enjoy those Wheaties.
Craving non-stop true crime updates? Press subscribe now and get the latest cases, analysis, and expert commentary delivered straight to your feed. Only from the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today.